Hey there, Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. Welcome. Recently, I got a question on a YouTube video that I made. Check out the pop-out link to view it. A question that sent me down a rabbit hole and made me question some stuff like, what is the value of room correction software for content creation? Can anyone create objectively good sounding content that everyone can agree is good? And even bigger questions about the psychophysical experience of hearing something in the first place. Anyway, the question that came into the channel was this: does the SoundID plug color what we're hearing on this video? This commenter was referring to a video that I did on the SSL G-Bus compressor by UAD, where I tested the plugin and had SoundID Reference by Sonarworks parked on my master bus. In the video, you can see I'm twisting knobs, I'm making moves, completely unaware that my moves could be affecting your perception of me, of the tool itself, everything. I'll explain more what I mean in a minute. I had no idea what to say to the commenter. I'd never thought about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I hated having to answer, yes, it is coloring the sound. Because that answer would mean some really bad things about how I get work out to the channel. Now, you can see in the video that I'm using my Sennheiser HD 650 headphones to mix, along with the corresponding SoundID HD 650 preset. I don't love mixing in headphones, but I'm doing it because audio leaking from my loudspeakers into this microphone is something that I always want to avoid. And by the way, if you have no idea what SoundID Reference is, I made a video on it here. You can check the pop out really quick. It's a software tool that overtakes your computer audio output, or DAW output, to correct tonal imbalances in your studio by listening to the sound of your studio through a special microphone, which gauges acoustic deficiencies that might be causing you to hear the audio in a non-neutral way. Based on what it learned in the microphone calibration process, which involves you waving the microphone around and placing it across dozens of different points in the room, it then imposes a custom EQ frequency curve through the software between your audio output from your DAW or music playback software and your monitoring system. And this goes for headphones or speakers. And this is done to adjust the frequency response of the monitoring system and get it as close to a possible flat sounding sound. Basically, imagine you're doing color correction, grading some people call it, on a photograph while wearing rose-tinted glasses. Not good, right? And that's what SoundID is trying to correct. It's adding a special techie lens over the rose-colored ones, which magically makes all the rose color disappear so that you can clearly see the colors you need to correct in the picture. Now, you can make accurate decisions about fixing someone's skin tone or making sure the grass is green and the sky is truly blue. I think you get the picture. So getting back to the matter at hand, I had SoundID on my master bus, helping me hear things properly because these headphones can color the sound a little bit. I did this so I could make the best decisions for the review. And what the commenter was asking me was, that SoundID thing, that EQ that's imposed so that I can hear a flatter, more neutral sound, is that custom EQ curve now baked into the system audio that you're sharing with us in this video? Is that part of what we're hearing? And guess what? The answer is yes, it is, which is maybe really a bad thing. It's bad because you're listening to a fake, dirtier mix with boosts and cuts that don't make sense for you, but do make sense for me here in my room and in my mixing. In other words, you're not hearing what I want you to hear. And because of that, you might hear my moves and think, why is he doing that? Doesn't he know that the EQ boosts or compression changes make the mix sound bad? To really drive this home, let's do some audio examples. Here's a chorus in a song I was mixing as I screen captured with the SoundID off. In other words, I got my mix where it needed to be with SoundID, and then I turned it off and exported just the chorus. And here's what it sounds like.
When will it be enough?
Now, here is the SoundID with the head correction curve that I have on. The head is Heinz Electrodynamic Designs through the loudspeakers that I have.
When will it be enough? It's always what you're thinking of. What will it take to see that you don't have to prove your worth?
Once again, without SoundID.
When will it be enough? It's always what you're thinking. When will it be enough? It's always what you're thinking of.
You'll notice that the one without SoundID sounds, I think, a little bit more balanced and even. But when I flip to the one with SoundID on, you'll hopefully hear that its low end is very pronounced and boomy, which also has the effect of boosting the overall loudness. In fact, if I compare these two with a little bit of metering here in Isotope RX, you'll see that if I go to Waveform Stats and Spectrum, this is the one with SoundID on, okay? You can see that the integrated is minus 8.1 LUFS. If I switch to the one without SoundID, you'll notice that its low end is a little bit more calm compared to the other one, a little bit more hyped when I go back to the one with, especially in the subsonic area. That's adding to the boominess, which I don't like. If I flip over, it's a little less hyped there, and we have minus 8.8 LUFS. With the one with SoundID on, I mentioned it was louder. It's minus 8.1 LUFS. So we have tonal stuff that I don't like and loudness stuff that I don't like. And also, you'll notice here that on the one with, we have a bit of a scoop here from 4 to 6K, and over here, that scoop isn't there, and it's a bit calmer on the high end. So more low end, more high end, and louder with SoundID on, which is not what I want for the world. Anyway, now you can see and hear, hopefully, what I'm talking about. So the without mix is the one I think sounds the way that I want it to. But I can't help you hear that version in a long form mixing tutorial because I need to keep SoundID Reference on to make good decisions. Now, for anyone wondering, Sonarworks will tell you that before you export your track for the world that you're either mixing or mastering with their DSP, you have to turn the plugin off and then hit bounce. And that makes sense. We have no use for our EQ crutches anymore when we're finished. We can turn off the simulated boosts and cuts and export a great sounding mix or master that SoundID helped us to achieve. But as I've hopefully established, it's a different story for screen captured live tutorials. So I was freaking out about this and I emailed Sonarworks about the problems as a bit of a sanity check. I asked them about this whole recording yourself setup, and they brought up some interesting, I think, points. Here's part of what they said. Quote, if you're providing a live screen/audio sharing or even recorded one, in any case, there will be a random EQ between you and the person on the other side because you can't control the listening environment of the other person. It feels like they're acknowledging that, yes, a random EQ is printed if you're live streaming and then saving and posting that stream. But they're also acknowledging that there might be strange EQ stuff happening because the other person's room is weird, or their headphones could be crazy colored or whatever. I wonder if for this reason, so many people who don't know any better get comments like, this sounds bad, or like, why would you boost so much low end, or why are you hyping it at 8K? It sounds awful. After all, maybe you listened to my two examples, the with and without SoundID, and thought, I don't hear a massive difference, and the second one sounds better, or the one with sounds better. I'm even getting confused. It is really confusing, and it's kind of wild, right? It really messed with me to think that me and you are never really hearing the same thing. Even if I go to all the precautions to export the perfect mix, like imagine learning a color like forest green looks different to you than it does to me, or a meatball doesn't have the same taste for two different people, even though the ingredients are exactly the same. Like we just cut the meatball in half and gave it to two different people. Same meatball. But these situations aren't always hypothetical, right? It happens all the time. For example, maybe your computer monitor is old or uncalibrated or just really dim, and forest green does look different, even though there is an objective, solid version of the color out there in the world. Or maybe one of your ears is lacking the ability to perceive low end really well. So my mix isn't boomy, it's just right. This conundrum reminds me a little bit of what mastering engineers have to deal with. After all, they're trying to create the most tonally balanced mix from low to high frequencies because they know once that mix gets out there into the world, someone is going to be throwing on those rose-colored glasses, headphones. And if they've done their job, the mastering engineer, the subject in the photograph or the song, they won't look like an Oompa Loompa with the red skin, and the sky will be as close to blue as possible, and their brains can kind of fill in the rest. I guess in a perfect world, you would all have a copy of SoundID Reference on your computer and be running it to flatten what I'm putting out onto the internet with that fake mastering EQ I don't want baked in. In fact, maybe you're listening to something that's coloring what I think sounds great after all of my tests and all my experiences. Maybe what I should do is really treat the snot out of this room even more than I already have, so I wouldn't need the support that SoundID Reference provides. The trouble is, if you were here with me, you'd notice that I've got some glass on this side of me here, which is hard to mount panels on, and why I have thick blackout curtains to cover them up. And there's also two doors back here, which makes corner traps really hard to install because it's hard to open and close the doors once you have padding behind them. Anyway, maybe I'm worried for nothing, but as the comments come in questioning the sound of my work, it really makes me wonder, like that terrible Christmas song, do you hear what I hear? Let me know what your thoughts are on all this stuff, and just because I gotta, I have a Patreon. If you subscribed, it's in the description. I'd really be grateful for the support. There's also affiliate links from which I get a kickback, and it helps to keep all this stuff independent and is a huge signal from you to me that this is something that I should continue doing. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and as ever, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.